especially for the mothers, all present. Women running from their race, their own black children they can't face. They don't know their roots as a glorious bloom. Blessed be the fruit of their womb. They just be acting as though they're ashamed of their history. They just be proud of other people's own. They just be glad to disclose their baby's ancestry, putting their child upon a false throne, not their own. For hear them boast to their friends and their neighbor, my baby's nose from his Spanish grandfather. My grandmother married a Chinese named Lau. That is why the eye's so pretty and he has such thick eyebrow. The dimple come from my husband's side, whose great-grandfather was Irish. And watch how the eyes pretty and wide, cause my mother mixed with British. And watch at me, I'm Caribbean Portuguese, so me shiny and curly. But the baby black down to the eyeball, they see Africa at all, at all, at all, at all. I said the baby black like a voodoo doll, they see Africa at all. I see black women running from their race. Foods from our table they can't face. If you hear them boast about how they does make French fry and French toast with gut steak, they have a name for all them foreign foods they using. Italian pizza, they murdering. Big African wedding, they serving Spanish rice with Scotch whiskey and French wine on ice to feel nice. Chinese chow mein, serving in black christening. English muffin, when the son graduating. They does fried egg and call that Spanish omelette, and frying Irish potato with New Zealand butter in fed. Hungarian goulash and Irish stew is what they're preparing for lunch. They even going Honolulu to drink up the Hawaiian punch. That when they brew, they're Moby and turn cuckoo and swizzle callaloo. Or make their porn and chamber roll. They don't see Africa at all, at all, at all, at all. They're making yam and dashi look small. They don't see Africa at all. Must stop running from their race and search this their place for their trades. You don't have to go by plane to Ghana in order to see Africa. Every time you come planting with mortar and pestle, or on your hand you wear your slave band, or when the Boko Jumbie walk tall amidst the people, then you rubbing shoulders with Africans. Understand? But the neighbor said how she neighbor stringberry in New York City, so that makes her a Yankee. Oh, how she loves stories of Arabian Nights and boasting about her French perfume and her Turkish delights. African dashiki she would wear, she would not even plait her hair. Stories of the Lagahu, her children them never hear. That when she husband, Mr. Paul left her last year, she run quickly for Obia. She burning light to put blight on Paul. She ain't see Africa at all, at all, at all, at all. The Obia man gives she bush back to bring back Paul. She ain't see Africa at all.
Yesterday has come and gone, leaving some of us who mourn. Times we had and friends we lost, and while it took its course, we have seen the many faces of slavery. We have seen the British Empire fall. We have seen Hitler's contribution to history. We have seen the rise and fall of the Berlin Wall. We have seen famine. We have seen wars. As you well imagine, we have seen nothing yet, because in time to come, America will have a black president. In time to come, there's going to be an active world government. In time to come, the world will see human life cheaper than dirt. In time to come, from outer space, aliens will land on the earth. Team Africa will win the World Cup. Marijuana will sell in the shop. Science will produce bread out of stone, and then create the first human clone. Technology will reach a new high. Buses and cars will fly in the sky. Trinidad will make a nuclear bomb. In time to come, let me hear you lifting a back. In time to come, in time to come. In this new millennium, we're going to see some strange things happening. Moving from the dark ages, man has progressed in stages. Through the stone and iron age, till we turn another page. And we saw the adventures of Alexander, waging war in his obsession for conquest. Inventions like the chariot and the saber, the weapons that put Europe under duress. mankind achievements sometimes were great, and his glorious moments mark the passage of time, but wait. In time to come, mankind will have a colony on the moon. In time to come, this calypso will be a top 40 tune. In time to come, scientists will synthesize silver and gold. In time to come, people will have real sex by remote control. The first dead man will come back alive. Cancer and AIDS victims will survive. Babies will born with mustache and beard. Penis and kidneys will be repaired. The government will ban cigarettes. Breakfast and lunch will be a tablet. A 2-year-old will split the atom. I know you. In time to come. In time to come. In a park, all you go see some strange things in this millennium. Mark my words. That day when the Wright brothers, after tremendous horrors, got their little plane to soar, all of mankind stood in awe. Just like when that great scholar Benjamin Franklin discovered what would be electricity. And again, when Sir Alexander in person gave the world the first telephone company. But all of that is a drink of rum in our drinking glasses, compared with what is still to come. An asteroid will destroy New York City. California will submerge under the sea. Almost every athlete will be bionic. Every national park will be Jurassic. Computers will compose Calypso. Explorers will find El Dorado. Man will begin to travel in time. Police will stop adultery and crime. People won't go to church anymore. And there will be a gender world war. Preachers will heal the blind, deaf and dumb. Get up back, let me hold you. In time to come. In time to come. La ba la ba la ba ba. I forward. Ba la ba look. Look how good you are. Coming now, coming up to you now. Nowadays, the things we see have us in a quandary, wondering what will be next in the world of science and sex. We have seen already the tacit acceptance by the world regarding same-gender romance. And we know that according to modern science, life on this circumstance, communication take over now, and in man's expectation, there is nothing time won't allow. Let me hear you. An exorcist will capture a living ghost. A transvestite will become his universe. An East Indian will win the Calypso crown. Scientists will make old people come back young. Advertisements will light up the skies, and holograms will dazzle the eyes. Women will walk naked in the tongue. Things will go up and never come down. To go to Tobago, people will walk. Monkey and dog will learn how to talk. Satmaraj will have a Negro grandson.
Oh boy, crazy. Edwin Ayong, in time to come. You know, they call it futuristic. In the African community, we say the prophetic tradition. Crazy, in time to come, singing in the prophetic tradition. And before that, Mighty Chalk Dust, the NC Africa Yet. Good evening to you all, and welcome to Politics 101 on a Monday night, coming off of the weekend, a working weekend. We had, of course, our course on Saturday, and then yesterday spent doing some work outside of Guyana. And that's how it goes sometimes. Welcome to all of you, wherever you're joining us from. It's Monday. It's Monday. Trust that you all had a pleasant weekend. The weekend is meant to relax and take it easy. You know, they say God worked for 6 days and he rested on the seventh day, hence the Sabbath. And some people celebrate the Sabbath on Saturdays, the Adventists, and some of the faithists. In fact, most of the African faithist churches, they worship on Saturdays. They worship on Saturdays. Certainly, the ones that I'm familiar with here in Buxton and other parts of the coast. And then, of course, the Christian churches, European centered Christian churches, or the European originated Christian churches, they worship on Sundays. And so the weekend is meant to rest. But of course, we know we do more than rest on the weekend. However, we're back at it on Monday night. Of course, there's never a dull moment in Guyana and Guyanese politics. And with the advent of social media, we are getting it 24/7, wall to wall, wall to wall. I try to keep up. Somebody saying no sound. Please, can the rest of you let me know? I think Linda is saying no sound. And let's see whether it's Linda or me. Please let me know. Please let me know. Susan is saying we have sound. Okay. Linda, please check your stuff. Yuri is saying that he's hearing. Good evening to you, Yuri Westmus, my brother. It's always, I wonder how Yuri do it. Yuri spend the weekend having a good time. And sometimes I can't figure out whether Yuri is in Guyana, Jamaica, Queens, New York. But Yuri does have a good time, and he's back at work on Monday morning. Good evening to you, Yuri. Good evening to all the people on the West Bank. Got some people came all the way from the West Bank to see me in Buxton today to draw my attention to some problems they're having there. Their farmers. Guyanese are remarkable. And I suppose we West Indians are. A brother called me this morning and he got hold of me and he wanted to see me. And I told him I was all the way in Buxton. And he said, Dr. Hinds, I'm going to drive and come all the way there to see you. And they came and made a representation and made a plea for representation. And that's all part of the work of a parliamentarian, I suppose. But I want to thank them for coming all the way. You know, it's. Can you imagine driving from the West Bank to Buxton in these times? It's quite a bit. It's quite a bit. The traffic coming over the bridge and the East Bank and the Heroes Highway all the way there, and then coming up the East Coast and then getting down back. I tried to tell him, you know, I'll come down to town and at least meet halfway, but he was insistent on coming here. And, you know, it was nice chat, and I was able to put him on to Brother Fitzroy Jordan, who is our shadow for agriculture. And they're going to take it from there. And that's a part of the country that I frequented a few years ago when I was active in an organization called Coffee 250. We did a lot of work in that corridor from Lagrange going right up to Wales, frequenting places like Stanleytown and Sisters and Nemes, Baggersville, sorry. And I promise the brothers today that I will try to visit there as soon as possible. Representation, of course, the 4-lane highway here on the East Coast is moving afoot. And people are being displaced. And I think the Minister of Public Works, Bishop Edgell, was here. I didn't get to attend the meeting since I had to go down to town because I was holding up work. I had the Parliament office and I had to go there to think, but I didn't. And they seemed to not to be satisfied, and they made some representation. I got in touch with the bishop on Saturday, and he said he was in a meeting and he would return my call. He hasn't returned the call yet. See, I'm putting them to the test. You know, they always say that we in the opposition, all we do is complain and complain. And I got his thing and his communication, and I communicated with him, and he promised, and 48 hours has passed, and he hasn't returned my call yet. I'm making it public so that when they begin to talk, you all will know. You know, as I said, they always complain that we in the opposition, all we do is complain and complain. The people came here and they said they were not satisfied with the meeting they had with him, and they asked me to intervene on their behalf. And I sought to do so. And the minister has not returned my call yet. I made it clear that I wasn't calling him to join his church. I will call in my capacity as a member of the National Assembly to make representation on behalf of constituents. I'm waiting. Perhaps he was busy today. I didn't expect him to call me on Sunday. He's a man of the cloth, and I expect that he would be in church and observing his Sabbath. But I didn't hear from him today. And I am waiting. So I'm making it public because these things are not private things, they're public things. And that I intend, in fact, we the parliamentarians on the APNU side, in the APNU delegation, we intend to be very aggressive in terms of representation. And in my capacity as WPA parliamentarian on that delegation, I intend to be super aggressive in terms of representation. Because as a member of parliament, as I point out, there are three major functions of parliament. One function is representation, representing your constituents. And I intend to keep the ministers and ministries very busy, not only waiting for them on the floor to ask them questions on the floor, but to make representation for people. You know, Jack, they always say people like David Hinds don't want black people, you know, to enjoy the wealth of Guyana. Well, you know, we shall see, because I intend to go aggressively to have them bring resources into the communities, into the constituencies that I represent. So and our representation, my representation is the East Coast, to which I'm assigned. We have 12 parliamentarians, and we have had to assign people. So I'm officially assigned to the East Coast. But as a member of parliament, I am a member of parliament for the entire country also. So I have an office in Buxton. For those who would wish to see me and to make representation, very soon I will let you know my MP Day, where the public can come to visit me officially. Very soon, I will do one day on the East Coast at Buxton, and then one day in Georgetown at the WPA office in Georgetown, where the public can come. But other than that, I will also be visiting communities because representation is very important. So, as I said, I made the first move in representing these people who are being displaced for the road here, and they are getting mixed signals when they met with the minister last week here in Buxton, and they've asked me to intervene. As I said, I called him. He did respond, said he was in a meeting and that he would return my call. He hasn't yet done so. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. But I'm reporting to the public, what the steps we are making. So we are going to ask questions in Parliament, but we are also going to be, at least I will try to bring resources to my community, because those resources are not the government resources. They are not the PPP resources. They are managing those resources. And part of the function of a member of parliament is to ensure that his or her constituency participate in those resources. So I do not intend to leave it to when the ministers visit for people to be running behind them and begging them. I intend to act on behalf of those people and to get resources to our constituency. So the work has begun. The work has begun. And I know that the parliament has not enjoyed the confidence of our people in recent times for good reason, And we, in the APNU delegation, we intend to change that. We have started work. You may have seen our parliamentarians doing outreaches in a number of communities, visiting families and so on. So we intend to, the parliament for us is an extension of the activism on the ground. In the old days, it used to be the activism on the ground is an extension of parliament. Well, we are also traveling in the other direction, making parliament an extension of what's happening on the ground. So it's a different approach to parliamentarian, a different approach that we bring. We are not going to be, we already are, we are working parliamentarians. And so we will see where that goes. So I'm giving public notice to the government that I shall be aggressively moving to make representations. You ask for it, and you're now going to get it. You know, there is this foolishness that they spread that people like me do not want our constituency to benefit and to get rich and so on. We don't want, well, I'm saying here publicly, I want our people. I want our people to get contracts, real contracts. Not little handouts, real contracts. And so my door is open. You're not always going to get me on the phone because it's difficult. If I do the phone thing, all day doing that, but I will share the, you can get me through my assistant, who's going to deal with my communication. So you may not be able to get me on the phone directly all the time, but sometimes you're able to, but I will make sure that your communication is answered by my assistant or me, and we shall proceed from there. I do want our people, all of our people, to benefit from resources, to get out of poverty. I was born in poverty. All of us were born in poverty. And insofar as some of us are so-called middle class, no. It is just that our parents, grandparents, and in my case, me, we managed to escape the clutches of poverty through the limited opportunities available to us. Because I still live here in the village. I'm here no more than I did before. And there are people I went to school with, people I taught, because we had a public evening school here called the Lessons Place. And I'm amazed that I knew that we taught over 300, sometimes as many as 400 children per evening, starting from kindergarten going right up to in those days, the GC level. And we would work in shifts starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And, you meet people now, and so many people in this village tell us how they benefited and they attended those lessons, as we call it, in those days. But you come back, and because of a lack of opportunity, people are still impoverished. And you don't have that those people did well in school. And some of us got opportunities, some of us were able to migrate, and others didn't get the opportunity. And so for me, poverty eradication is both personal and political. You see, as I have been saying, you think that if you put a penny in somebody's hand, they're going to get rid of poverty. They're going to get rich. Sorry. But I'm arguing a prerequisite for wealth is the eradication of poverty. If you are not poor, you are going to be in a better position to make use of resources. If you have a cash transfer of $500,000, but you have debt of $500,000, your cash transfer gone to getting rid of the debt, and you have nothing left to invest in making money. And that is the problem with the $100,000 or $200,000 that they're giving as cash grants. Christmas is coming. You give a family, an individual, $100,000 around Christmas time. It gone to buying Christmas things so that people can have a nice Christmas. It does not get rid of poverty. For them to get rid of poverty, you have to give them a bigger cash handout, cash transfer, not handout. I don't think it should be handout. You have to give them a bigger cash transfer. You have to legislate it so they know that it's coming and they're able to plan. With $500,000 in hand or $1 million in hand, a poor person is able to pay off some debt and still have enough to invest in other things. I ask these vendors, these street vendors, I try to patronize as many of them as I can. And I ask them, I ask the young lady who's selling bread girl, as they call her. She sells tennis roll and bread and pastries and so on. And I ask her, how much you make on a pack of pastries, tennis roll? And she said, $50 per pack. Now, let's say she sells 50 pack of tennis roll per evening. You all do the math. It's not very much she's taking home. But she's trying. She's selling other things. But they don't make very much. And, we take it for granted. Mostly young ladies and young men, they do. They try, they work. Most of them do. But they make just enough to eke out a living. They stay just at the poverty line. And so what we have to do is to eradicate poverty. Once poverty is not there, then when you get a cash transfer, that transfer is not going towards dealing with basic things. We take it for granted. We take it for granted. The bread girl, for example, she sells cheese. And one would imagine that, tennis roll go with cheese and bread and cheese, etc., etc., etc. The cheese don't move. But you can understand why the cheese don't move. Because most people are just able to buy the tennis roll. They can't afford the cheese. And so the poverty has an impact on nutrition. And nutrition, or lack thereof, has an impact on education. And so if we get rid of poverty, we will be doing ourselves a great turn. I have no quarrel with getting rid of bad infrastructure and having better infrastructure. All of us we rather drive on better roads than bad roads. But just as you invest in infrastructure, physical infrastructure, why not invest in human infrastructure? And you see, part of the problem with this government, even the infrastructure which they put a lot of emphasis on, we are finding out by the day that there is no overall plan, no objective. If you're going to build bridges and you're going to build roads, you have to plan for how that is going to affect traffic. You have to plan it in such a way, because roads and bridges are aimed at making it easier for people and goods and services to move from one place to the other. But what we are seeing in Guyana is that the more we build the roads, the more difficult it is to move from one place to the other. People, goods and services. Look at the chaos on our roads. So we are investing in roads, but more and more people are dying on the roads. More and more people are dying, people are driving recklessly. More and more it is difficult to get to work on time. So it's okay to say that you're investing in infrastructure. You're building roads, you're building bridges. But then when you do the evaluation as to how it is affecting people's lives, materially and otherwise, then I think that's where we are failing. So it's not just knocking the government for spending enormous amount of money on infrastructure. It is what you're getting for the money that you're spending. We know that the contractors, the big contractors, the connected contractors, we know they're making money from the investment in infrastructure. We know that they are benefiting. We know that. But are the ordinary people benefiting from this infrastructure? And that is the question. On the one hand, those who are benefiting are the connected ones, a tiny minority of people who are the contractors who benefit. Then the vast majority of people to whom the service is directed, they are not benefiting. And so the critique of the government infrastructure spending is not a critique of the spending per se. It is what you're getting for it. It's literally fearful to walk on the road, to drive on the road. Today I'm driving in my village. And the usual thing, the traffic is heavy in one direction, and people are turning the one lane into two lanes. So where it's slow in the opposite direction. And I'm driving this morning, I literally had to stop. I had to stop because they're bold in coming in my direction. And I stopped. I stopped. Because I wasn't going to go in the corner and to facilitate them trying to drive in the lane that. And if you see how they're carrying on, and I push my face out to let them to see that it's me. Some of them cuss under the breath, but come on. I commend the traffic police for doing some good work on the main highway, but clearly they're not able to man the main highway and the railway embankment. And the craziness, those big trucks carrying on. What is the government doing? That cannot be development. If you're building roads and it's causing death, look every day. How can you call people dying development? And so it's a matter of planning. Mr. Jagdio used to say everything, the APNU calling for feasibility study and due diligence, everything. And he's not interested in planning and do due diligence. They just want to do things. Well, they're doing things. And they're messing up the country. Because they're not planning. They're not thinking about what I'm doing, how it's going to advance people's life. I mean, if you're building a house and you got old people living in the house and they're going to need problem, you are going to build at least a 2-story house. The young people can climb up the step and the old people can, they don't say, you plan. And so we come back to poverty. Giving a handout here and there, it's good. Nobody is going to say something bad in giving government transfer. You give us $40,000 for this, a $30,000 for that, $100,000 at Christmas time. But when you add it up, and then you say, how is this qualitatively changing people's lives? How? The answer has to be no. Because there is no plan. The PPP government does not like cash transfer. The minister said it the other day. He said they don't like it. They think it's a failed model. And so you ask yourself, why are you doing it? If you think that's a failed model, why are you doing it? Why are you implementing a failed model? Well, because it's politically catchy. You're doing it for political gimmick. You're not doing it because you believe in it. So you're not planning it. There's no planned outcome. If you believe philosophically and ideologically in cash transfers, then you are going to plan it because you're thinking about the outcome. The minister said the government doesn't believe in it. It's a fair model, yet they're doing it. They're doing it as a gimmick. And because it's a gimmick, they're not planning. And because they're not planning, it will not have the requisite outcome. And that is what we are dealing with as a country. We have the conundrum. We have the dilemma. A fast-growing economy and a high rate of poverty. Normally, the two things don't go hand in hand. But here, that is the reality. And the reality is that the returns from the growth are not being used to eradicate the biggest scourge, and that is poverty. So there's not a causal relationship between the rate of growth in the economy and the rate of decline in poverty. There's not a causal relationship there. There's not a positive relationship. I go back to Wilfred David. I was a small boy in high school, and I heard him said he was an advisor to Fox Burnham in the 70s. And I later got to know him in Washington, D.C. because he taught at Howard University. And I get to know him very well, he and his wife, Peggy. They're Belladrum people, Eldorado people, Wilfred David. And I heard him first with that thing. There can be growth without development. My schoolboy head didn't quite grasp the enormity of what he was saying, but I knew he was saying something profound. Later on, as I rubbed shoulders with Clive Thomas and Maurice Odle and others in the WPA, I came to understand it better. What Wilfred David was talking about. And it's stark in Guyana today. We have growth without development. And so it is not that David Hines doesn't want people to get rich. I do not want people to get rich as an end in itself, because you can have a community of 8,000 people. And you can have 5 or 10 people who become super rich. The community still remains poor. I am interested in individual wealth, but an individual wealth that is grounded in a communal wealth. I want the community to be wealthy. I welcome individuals who get rich. But if you have 5 people, 10 people who are multimillionaires in a village of 8,000 people, you're not dealing with development there. Because that person, those persons who are multimillionaires, they have to live in prison. Their homes become a prison. They have to get 50 gun and 50 dog. That's not how human beings live. And so I am interested in both individual wealth and communal wealth. Individual wealth must be grounded in communal wealth. If you have a community, a village of 8,000, 6,000 people, and you don't have a proper market where people can exchange goods and services, people can buy and sell, and then you have the returns from that buying and selling circulating 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 10 times in a community. That's how a community is able to lift itself. One of the things we brought as Africans and East Indians brought it too, and that is the notion of the market. You go anywhere in Africa today, The market is a staple, a marketplace, not a virtual marketplace. I mean, that's good today. We have people buying and selling online. That's good. Not a marketplace in the so-called capitalist sense, but a marketplace in a communal sense. I born and grow in a part of my village here. I understand that those people had a concept of a mall. Most of the goods and services you wanted was here at what they call Bottom Station. You had everything, down to a bookstore. Teacher Rollins had a bookstore, everything. You had a shoe store, Bottom. You had clothing store, you have haberdashery, you fruity and barber, mush. And then you had the ladies and so on selling their black pudding and so on, and their sauce and so on. You could come to this part and you know the concept of the mall. And then so the exchange of goods and service, money was exchanging. My aunt sell black pudding, and the money she get for the black pudding, she take it and she go and she buy dongs and guinea, and she gone down to town and she sell and she come back and she buy in the villages. She buy things, she makes she black pudding, she makes sauce, and so the money circulating. That money is what I go to the barber shop, me and my brothers. So the money is circulating. That is why a few years ago when I made the point about people leaving better for Wacton and going to Monrepo Market to buy black pudding and other things, they turned it into a racial thing. I am glad to go to BV now and see BV people are buying black pudding and sauce there in their own village. They didn't need me to tell them that, but if my pointing it out a few years ago, thing that I am glad I go there sometimes. I haven't been there in a little while. I try to go, to these villages and to see what's happening with people. And you got to, as people say, patronize. You patronize people and so on. And it's good to go down BV and to see demand. You got at 5 o'clock, 5:30. It done. Black pudding done. Sauce done. You're hard in advance. And that is what I'm talking about. There's nothing racial about it. You buy what you don't produce outside of your community. So now you have intra-community trade and inter-community trade. Sometimes I know Indian people come into Buxton, come into the villages to buy pig. Sometimes they come to buy goat and sheep. You don't see that now. There's not very much inter-community trade because, you have, in some instances, one community monopolizing the production of goods and services. And that's the point I was trying to make. And I am not ashamed of making that point. Not ashamed. They call me Black Pudding Man, and I'm glad. Because people who sell in black pudding in them black villages now are telling me, thanks, Dr. Hinds. Thanks. Thanks. We ain't get on for sell black pudding. So I glad that they call me Black Pudding Man. Let me be known as the person who has made people conscious again about a dish that is very germane in the African Guyanese community. And I want black people to make money from it. Plenty money. So we want people to get to be out of poverty as a prerequisite for wealth. And I'm prepared to use whatever influence that comes with office, even in opposition, to bring resources. In the United States political system, congressmen, I said, you take back what they call pork to your community. That is one of the first things about being a legislator, is that you take back things to your community. And so, sisters and brothers, we are on a mission. And that mission is to, first of all, reduce poverty, ultimately getting rid of it, as a means of democratizing the distribution of wealth. We have to have a redistribution of wealth in Guyana. We have to have that. And this is now across racial lines, a redistribution along racial lines and redistribution along class lines. And sometimes race and class intersect. In the case of African people, race and class intersect. They're pushed to the bottom of the economic ladder as a race, and the vast majority of that race are being pushed to the bottom as a class. They're Indian poor people, they're Amerindian, probably the Amerindian community is the poorest community in Guyana. I know we Africans and Indians monopolize the discourse on race. But as an ethnic group, an ethno-racial group, Amerindians are the poorest. And so you find race and class intersect. They're poor as a race and poor as a class, the vast majority of them. African people are poor as a race and a class. Indian people are poor as a class. They experience poverty as a race differently from Amerindians and Africans, because they're given the way the racial situation manifests itself. The poor Indian gets more of the trickle down than the poor African and the poor Amerindian. Because the PPP ensures that the poor Indian gets more of the trickle down. And that is a means of ensuring their ethnic loyalty. So they get more of the trickle down. If they give Africans and Amerindians more of the trickle down, then those Amerindians and Africans are less likely to grovel to the PPP. They will stay with the PNC/APNU or whatever other party. And so what the PPP does is that it gives more of the trickle down to Indian Guyanese. It gives less trickle down to Africans and Amerindians. And it uses that as the call, come to me, for Africans and Indians. And you hear some of my friends in the PPP, they mean well, but they don't understand, or they seem not to understand, because I think some of them do understand. that this PPP outreach to Africans and Amerindians is not an outreach that is grounded in a desire to make the political economy equitable. It is purely about vote catching. And that is why the PPP is so disappointed at this last election. They're related on the one hand because they got 3 extra seats, they got 9,000 votes, more votes than the last time. But they're angry because the plan, they were talking about 2/3 majority. The plan was to get more Africans to vote for them, and African people turned their backs on them. And so they're angry at that. They're angry at that because they're using the purse string, using the money, not to genuinely lift Africans out of poverty, but it is to as a means of beckoning them and capturing them. And that is what is racially obscene. Racially obscene. And so this question of economic development is a question that we have to aggressively address as a government, as a people, as communities. We cannot turn back. It's simplistically said that, if you want to get African Guyanese young people and African people, you got to promise them something. That is the simpler way of putting it. Man has always been an economic being. Mankind has always been an economic being. Mankind has always looked for something. And African Guyanese in 2025 are no different. What the PPP is trying to do is trying to let African Guyanese believe that nothing else matters in life. Your culture doesn't matter. Your identity doesn't matter. All that matters is that here is a penny, come for it. And forget about all the other things that go into life. And that's where I am sparring with them. And maybe more than spar with them. Because there's more to life. Man shall not live by bread alone, the Holy Book says. And they're trying to tell black people, man lives by bread alone. Clive Thomas says, man lives by bread and justice. And you mustn't trade justice for bread. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by the Holy Spirit. There is such a thing as spiritual nourishment. And what the PPP is trying to tell black people is man must live by bread alone. And then they're upset at the outcome. Because the outcome of that philosophy is that I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it. That is the culture they're developing in the black community. Saying you all you need is money. But look, I give you enough money to go and put on a car. I give you enough money to go put on a motorbike. That's all you're worth in life. It's a car and a motorbike. I give you enough money to go and buy a bottle of Hennessy. That's all you are worth in life. And that's what I am fighting. That's what we are fighting. Because we do not want African Guyanese or any group of Guyanese to degenerate into a slave of a few pieces of silver. We want you to have silver. But we want you to have silver as part of the holistic human development. And so we are fighting the PPP on that. We are fighting the PPP on that. And we are calling on Black people, watch yourself. Don't become entrapped in your ultimate and persistent underdevelopment. There is more to life than just a motorbike and a car. A motorbike and a car these days are necessities. They're necessities. We live in a modern world. And I'm glad to see young Black people driving car and motorbike and so on. But that must not be the ultimate of your ambition. I want you to sell motorbikes and to sell cars, to become car dealers and motorbike dealers. That's what we want you to be. And if you can't do it alone, join with others. When they give you all the 3 million contract, if 20 of you join your 3 million, that's 60 million. If each of you from that $3 million make up $1.5 million, and 20 of you come together with the $1.5 million, you may be able to do something to start a collective business, to start something together. After all, the cooperatives matter. With a $1.5 million from them small contract on your own, you ain't doing nothing. You're able to carry home a small piece. But you're not able to buy a piece of equipment with what you're getting from the little 3 or 4 million contract. You're not able to get a piece of equipment. So the next time you go to bid, you can bid higher because you now get machine. If you don't have machine, and the other man got the machine, you're still slaving. How can you, what you get from the little contract, able to buy a machine? And if you make a 2 million, and 10 of you all come together, there's 20 million, and you all are able to buy a piece of machine and share it, then you all are beginning to make sense. Black people, my little Black brothers, my little Black sisters. But then they get you all on this trip that all you need is to get this little contract, and David, I don't want you get it. Well, I gonna be pressing them to give you all more. Here I come. Here I come. Here we come. And I'm making it public. There's no secret. Because at the end of the day, they will have to say whether they deliver or didn't deliver. Those of you who didn't be at the last election and said when we were in government, we didn't do anything for you all, and so on. That is only partly correct. Doing for you all is not coming and handing a little money in your hand. Doing for you all is trying to democratize the system so that you all can benefit more. It's not coming and putting 2 million in your hand, but democratize the system so that the system, that you can get 20 million out of the system. That is doing for you. Not for the PPP come in and give you a little $2 million, $3 million contract. It's to democratize the system where you can get $20 million contract, $50 million contract. And that's where we're trying to carry black people ahead. And those of you who are on a program like this, you must become disciples. Take this information, carry it to your little family, your communities. Gather them, 10, 15 of them, and invite people like myself to come and chat with them and talk to them and open their eyes and open their minds. Somebody did it for me. Somebody did it for me. Somebody did it for me. Easy to say our people are going astray. But it must be equally easy to give them the tools to prevent them from going further astray. As I've said it here before, one of my discovery of being here in Guyana more is that I have discovered that young people are not as disconnected as we think they are. They're connected. They may not take that connection to the next level, but they're connected. I'm in the habit of asking young people when I meet them here in the village and outside the village, you know me? And before I get from no to me, they don't respond and tell me who I am. So we've got work to do and we're moving in earnest. Dr. Henry Jeffrey is going to be here tomorrow. And you know when Dr. Jeffrey is here, there's a lot of sparks. Those of you who have not yet signed up for the course, we are now moving into our third week on Saturday. We still have space in the course. It's an 8-week course, so you can still join. And we intend to make this continuously. We're going to take a break at Christmas when we finish this first course. And we are going to continue that education. Preparing soldiers. Because part of it is a battle for the minds. Battle for the minds of our people. And once Marcus Garvey calls it mental slavery. And if we're going to get out of mental slavery, mental liberation. Mental liberation. We got work to do. And the young people, some of them, by their vote at the last election, they disappoint us. But out of that disappointment comes opportunity to do some things that we never felt were important to do. And we are leading by example. The words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. The Lion of Judah shall break every chain and give us the victory, always the victory, again and again.